Reaction. This is how this American F-18 shot down Syrian SU-22. So Su-22, right? Sukhoi, it's Sukhoi, right? Yeah, okay. Man, I've never seen an F-18 video, but this is from Task and Purpose, latest video from yesterday, I'm guessing. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty sure I haven't watched any F-18 video, and there are not many of them. I've checked. Why doesn't there like many F-18 videos on YouTube? Like there's many F-22 videos, F-16, F-15, but nobody talks about F-18 for some reason. But yeah, I don't know what F-18's purpose was. Was that a replacement for F-16 or something? Then F-18 was replaced by F-22 or something? I don't know. But yeah, F-18 is also awesome plane, badass plane. Yeah, it's a SU-22. SU-22 is that like competitor to F-18 or something? I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. Task and Purpose is a great channel. I've been reacting to this for past month or so. And yeah, it's mostly military-related things, incidents, things, geopolitics, equipment like planes, tanks, and things like that. It's always awesome. So let's do this one. Remember, we'll flag my reaction, don't forget to subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more. I like watching this kind of like a military rabbit hole that I've been through. I didn't know much about it before I started watching this. And I realized like, whoa, there's way too many layers to it, right? I always assume all jets were same, like F-15, F-16, F-22. Why does it F-35? Why does it matter? Blackbird, they're all the same. Then I realized, wait a minute, everybody has different job, everybody's made differently, and it makes sense now. Even the tanks are different. I didn't know there was like infantry vehicles. Looks like tank. I'm like, oh, what? Bradley, isn't that a tank? No, it's an infantry vehicle apparently. So way too many layers to it. With the also like boats and things, too many designation. I was still like, I watched a video from, what was the channel? I forgot the channel's name, but who talked about like how many different type of boats there are. Already, so there's also a video who talks about like what is the FA and all this designation means in like aircrafts, like helicopters, planes, and things like that. So yeah, so there's always one.
U.S. Navy F-18 airstrike against ISIS terrorists end up turning into an air battle against Syrian jets. On the morning of June 18, 2017, the U.S. aircraft carrier CVN-77 was on station in the eastern Mediterranean to support U.S.-backed militia forces. Lieutenant Commander Michael Mob Tremmel was a member of Strike Fighter Squadron 37, nicknamed the Golden Bulls. He took off in an F-18E Super Hornet as part of the second wave of strike aircraft for the day. His wingman was Lieutenant Commander Jeff Kruger, also in an F-18E. Their mission was to—
Wait a minute, so a Super Hornet is different from the simple Hornet? I'm pretty sure I saw some title like, oh, Hornet's gonna become now Super Hornet. So I'm guessing 18E is the newer version of F-18 or something?
fly several hundred miles to Syria, then make contact with coalition forces on the ground. From there, they would orbit the battlefield and wait for close air support requests against ISIS targets. This was a pretty routine self-escort mission for the US Navy pilots, so they took off with a standard loadout of air-to-ground bombs and missiles. During the morning briefing, flight crews on the carrier were warned to be extra vigilant against attacks by third-party aircraft during the day's missions. There was
Seeing the air vent, I'm thinking this is not that fast of a plane. Those are smaller vents there, right? Air intakes, what are they called, right? So I'm guessing this is going to be like Mach 1 around type of plane.
Reasons for this increased alert status. But before we continue, I want to tell you about this official Boeing Flight Simulator Cockpit Military Edition that I'm giving away to you. Also known as what you actually wish you got for Christmas. I custom built each part to simulate the A-10 Warthog's flight stick,
Boeing
throttle
Flight
control
Simulator,
panel,
damn, how
and
costly
easily
is
the
that?
best way to feel the brat of the chain gun right down in your plums. I also included the Thrustmaster flight pedals that have a unique suspended mechanism ensuring smooth and fluid movements. I handpicked a curve monitor for full flight immersion, so you'll really feel like you're actually in a dogfight or pulling off close air support strikes. I'm able to do this giveaway thanks to our veteran-owned small business partner, GetEnteredToWin.com. All you have to do is click the link in the description or the pinned comment below. Head over to go.getenteredtowin.com/taskandpurpose, grab one of our cool limited edition collectibles, and get automatically entered to win the power of flight. You must be a US resident in order to win, and the deadline to enter is January 2nd, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. As always, thank you for your support and good luck. Just that morning, al-Assad's Syrian forces had attacked the US-backed forces at the town of Jadin. The first wave of strike aircraft that day had stopped the attack after they pulled off a show-of-force maneuver flying close to the ground, which was so loud and terrifying it spooked everyone into hiding. The second reason was because 2 months prior, the US military struck a Syrian
Okay, which plane is the loudest one? I don't think I've ever, no, I'm pretty sure I've never had a jet go close to me and heard it like that. I'm guessing must be loud. Which one is the loudest? F-15 is going to be probably loudest because it's like one of the fastest ones. I'm guessing it will have loud, I don't know. Which one's going to be loudest, right? Those thunder screech, right? That plane, the propeller plane, the fastest propeller plane, they have to like control, the pilots constantly have to control so it doesn't spin around or something. I'm guessing that must be like, it's a thunder screech, so it's like you can hear that from long distances. I'm guessing that must be the loudest one of them all. But I'm thinking about jets. That's not a jet, that's like a propeller, right? Which jet is like the loudest?
chemical weapons storage facility with Tomahawk cruise missiles after the
all the
Syrian
concrete
dictator
gone.
used chemical weapons. Then, just 10 days prior, US F-18s shot down an Iranian drone over Syria. There was concerns that Syria may attempt to retaliate. So the rules of engagement were constantly adjusting to account for the increasingly complex situation, and Commander Tremmel and Kruger needed to stay on top of all these geopolitical considerations in addition to their mission at hand. Tremmel and Kruger were accompanied by 2 F-18C Hornets, which are smaller and shorter range than the E model, but still very capable multi-role strike fighters. The 4 US jets took off without a hitch and proceeded into Syria via—
All of that. F-18C is smaller than F-18E. How the hell dimension change? Wouldn't that just change the plane itself? Like, how are you going to make it smaller? If you make it smaller, like, you have to do all the aerodynamics all over again. How is that not same plane at that point?
the northern route, which took them along the Turkish border. This brought them into range of the Russian and Syrian air defense networks, but the routine mission didn't seem to cause any special alerts among the non-coalition radars. So far, everything was going according to plan. The flight arrived on station over the Syrian city of Raqqa around mid-afternoon. Raqqa was the seat of power for ISIS at the time. The city, along with its surrounding province, was the stage for heavy fighting between ISIS, coalition, Syrian, and Russian forces. U.S. Lieutenant Commander Tremmel's flight established radio contact with a coalition Joint Terminal Air Controller, or JTAC, on the ground in the town of Al-Tabqa, just on the southwestern outskirts of Raqqa. JTACs are specially trained personnel who act as a crucial link in the communication chain between ground and air forces. Without them, airstrikes are not—
Yeah, basically we're going to logistic at this point, which is like US flexes a lot. Yeah, I saw the China video from this channel, like how in the peacekeeping mission in China, how that was like a really fucked up situation because of the chain of command communication error. Like, you don't, when you think about all these things, you just see the spreadsheet, right? Which is the most powerful military, which is the most powerful this, which has this kind of, you don't think about the like details of things, like logistics basically, right? That's where the power lies. Like, if you're like chain of command, messes up a lot, like you can't communicate right, doesn't matter how powerful you are, at that point you're weak, right? So things like that matter. I'm learning this a lot, right? I don't think I would have known this few months ago before I started watching all these things, but yeah.
not only less accurate, but pose a far greater danger of accidentally hitting friendly forces. Right when the flight of 4 F-18s were getting filled in on the ground situation by the JTAC, a Russian Su-27 flanker fighter jet appeared on scene. Some sources claim it was the more modern Su-35. They look similar and it's easy to get the two confused, but the majority of reports state that it was an older Su-27 variant. The Su-27 is a very dangerous and capable 4th-generation multi-role fighter aircraft and could potentially carry enough armament to shoot down all 4 US aircraft if it were outfitted in a full air-to-air superiority loadout. But Russian aircraft weren't unusual neighbors in the skies above Syria, and the Su-27 appeared to just be orbiting at high altitude to monitor the airspace. So US Lieutenant Commander Tremmel and his flight team proceeded with their mission. The F-18s entered a type of holding pattern called a close air support stack, where they awaited targets to be relayed via the JTAC. A close air support stack is kind of like an order of battle or kill chain for aircraft. It's a mix of air power, including you could sometimes have the MQ-9 Reaper drones, AC-130s, or B-52s, all with different capabilities useful for different targets. It's like a Venn diagram of aircraft lethality with some overlap. These assets are then organized through a series of verbal back and forth communications with the JTAC to set them up in the most effective way possible, considering the type of target you're trying to destroy, be it tanks, infantry, or fortifications. While the F-18s entered the close air support stack, Lieutenant Commander Tremmel started having issues with the targeting pod attached to his aircraft. Targeting pods are packed full of sophisticated sensors on a mechanically stabilized gimbal, so there's a lot that can go wrong with them. Targeting pods with technical difficulties are an occasional fact of life for pilots, and it's one of the many reasons.
Really? Oh my god, I didn't know that. It's like, it happens regularly. Like, I always assume like, okay, in this situation you can't fuck up, so I'm guessing this kind of thing is rare. I get it's like really complex, but I just always assume that the engineering is so good that they probably never fail type of way. But it's like, you know, like happens frequently. Wouldn't that be a problem? Like, what if you're in a situation when it fails? Like, what the fuck? You're fucked at that point, right? If that's the case, why like newer planes like F-35 and things are relying a lot more on complex electronics? I mean, I get it, like that's future, but still.
Redundancy is built into combat missions at the planning stage with multiple aircraft and multiple weapon systems. Because things will inevitably go wrong, the ability to adapt and overcome is a mark of an outstanding pilot. In communications with the rest of his flight, Tremmel decided to break off from the formation and monitor the circling SU-27 to cover his wingmates while they continued with their strike missions. He switched his Super Hornet's master mode into an air-to-air configuration and watched the Russian jet. The different modes optimize the radar tracking for engaging either aircraft, or you can switch to modes that optimize for striking ground targets. The all-digital cockpit.
See, I've been watching this like stack position, and now like, you know, using radar for different type of like targets, and I'm just constantly remembering like how F-35 would be better at all of this, right? It can literally communicate with each other. It doesn't need like JTAC or whatever that is, the guy on the ground, right? It can track multiple things same time. Doesn't need to like either do or either that. I can already see how F-35 can be great at these situations. Why didn't they use F-20? Like F-22 never saw action. Pretty sure they had F-22 around this time. Why are they using F-18 again? Though slowly I'm realizing like certain planes are made for certain regions somehow. Like NGAD or Next Generation Air Dominance is like, I'm guessing is made for Pacific or something because of long distances. Now this is made for like Middle Eastern things or whatever, so I'm guessing F-18 is great for that. So what is F-22 is made of? Would that work everywhere? If that would work everywhere, why didn't they use it around time like this? Wouldn't that be better? I mean, why make F-22 never give any action to it before you like basically retiring now, right? Only action you saw is like balloon that came in the United States airspace, right? Why didn't they use this one? Like somebody comment down, who knows, like why didn't they use a situation like this?
Of the F-18 Super Hornet gives pilots much more flexibility than what traditional avionics offer. The SU-27 still uses mostly analog instruments. With the improved radar settings, Tremmel noticed a second unidentified radar track on his screen moving at high speed. Tremmel moved in for a closer look and visually confirmed that the newcomer was an SU-22 fitter, belonging to the Syrian government's Air Force. What you're watching right now is footage from the actual incident, likely from several jets compiled into one video. The recorded footage from Tremmel's own jet remains classified and unavailable to this day for reasons that we'll find out in a minute. The Su-22 is the export version of the Soviet Su-17, originally designed back in the 1960s. Adopted into Soviet service in 1970, it was built as a fast and
It looks old. It looks like F4 or something, right? Phantom. Okay, I thought SU-22 was going to be like advanced, like F-18 or something.
agile fighter bomber thanks to its variable sweep wing design. While it could mount missiles and defend itself against mid-Cold War jets, the aircraft was primarily used as a bomber and could actually fit up to 8,800 pounds of ordnance across its 12 hardpoints. Syria had about 39 Su-22s at the start of the Syrian civil war, a serious danger to any ground troops. Syria used them extensively against ISIS targets and opposition.
Alright, I was assuming it's going to be dogfight, but it's not. It's like a bomber versus fight. I'm guessing, you know, F-18 is going to drop down S-22 before it can launch bombs or something, fucking up anything that's below.
Forces alike. The appearance of a Syrian jet bomber in the area immediately set off alarm bells in U.S. Lieutenant Commander Tremel's head because he knew that there were U.S.-backed SDF forces currently engaged with ISIS militants in the city. From his briefing, he knew Syrian forces had already attacked the SDF position at nearby Jadin that morning. Tremel had to think quickly. The Su-22 could be going for the ISIS stronghold within the city, so he watched the Syrian aircraft's course closely to determine its target. Tremel confirmed that the bomber was heading directly for US-backed SDF lines. The US F-18s didn't have direct communication frequencies to the Syrian Air Force, so Tremel got on the horn with a coalition airborne warning and control system plane to relay warnings to the Syrian pilot to wave off. When the Su-22 didn't respond, Lieutenant Commander Tremel escalated to more visual warnings. He headbutted the Syrian jet 3 times. This maneuver is also sometimes called a thump, where a pilot flies just over the canopy of another aircraft and pops flares just in front. This is an unmistakable warning sign that even a space...
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I literally thought he's just gonna fly in top and he just like literally head bump with like a something like, whoa, you don't do that with plane, and yeah, he didn't. I'm pretty sure that would be catastrophic. Yeah, this is like, yeah, flares. I mean, come on, man. It literally throw flares at your face. You definitely see that.
Cadet like myself couldn't miss. There's essentially no way the Syrian pilot didn't notice even one headbutt, yet he still didn't respond or divert course after 3. At one point in time, if this aircraft would head south and work its way out of this situation, it'd be fine with us. We could go back to executing the mission. That's a quote from Lieutenant Commander Tremel. By now, the Su-22 was getting close enough to the SDF forces in Jadin to begin its attack run, and the Syrian pilot pitched his aircraft into a dive. At 6:43 p.m. local time, Lieutenant Commander Tremel visually confirmed the bombs left the Su-22's bomb racks and struck the SDF positions, causing an unknown number of injuries. Having personally witnessed a Syrian aircraft attack friendly forces on the ground, Tremel knew the rules of engagement now made the Su-22 a legitimate target. There was still...
I don't get it. Like, why did it do that though? I get it, like you have to like follow procedure, but when you throw flare like that, it still doesn't respond to you. Isn't that all like maybe like I should like shoot it down because they're like, why take chance that like your soldiers below there? I guess like you can't just do that. You might be court-martialed or something. Yeah, that's a really fucked up situation for the pilot, right? He knows like it's probably gonna drop bombs, and there are soldiers there that are right? They're probably engaging there. That's so fucked up.
The complication of the Russian Su-27 high overhead though, which could retaliate against Tremel and his entire flight of bomb-laden F-18s if he fired at the Syrian jet. But from his point of view, if he let the Su-22 get away with bombing US-backed forces in full view of American pilots, Syria could declare open season on the SDF and other allied troops on the ground. Tremel had to make a split-second decision to shoot or not to shoot, a decision that could have major international consequences and potentially deadly repercussions for him and his wingmates. As the Su-22 pulled out of its dive, Tremel made his decision at a range of about 1.5 miles, well within the AIM-9X missile range, and in perfect position behind the Su-22, Tremel locked and launched an AIM-9X Sidewinder missile at the climbing Syrian jet. Typically, the authorization code goes first, and it lets everyone on the radio net know what type of munition you fired. The AIM-9X is typically designated Fox 2. This is then followed by the target information, something like bandit at 12 o'clock, 20 miles high. Then that's followed by a confirmation call, missiles away. The Su-22 popped flares, the standard issue countermeasure for infrared missiles. But something unexpected happened. The AIM-9X, the most advanced infrared guided missile in the US arsenal, went for the flares. The Sidewinder had been spoofed and failed to shoot down an aging Cold War era bomber from perfect range and position. Lieutenant Commander Tremel reacted instantly. If heat seekers wouldn't work, he had a radar guided AIM-120 AMRAAM ready to go. Normally fired from much longer range, there was a risk that the AMRAAM wouldn't have time to lock and properly guide itself onto the close-range Su-22. Tremel fired Fox 1 and it soared through the air towards the target. The missile had a top speed of about Mach 4 or 1,340 meters per second. The missile detonated against the back half of the Su-22, sending it spiraling towards the ground. Tremel had to veer sharply to the left to avoid the mid-air debris. As he did so, at the last second, he saw the Syrian pilot eject before the plane ultimately hit the ground in a massive explosion. The whole incident, from initial detection to shootdown, only lasted 8 minutes, but the implications would be immense. For now though, the American pilots had more immediate concerns, with a Su-27 overhead and a whole network of Russian air defense systems in range. The pilots communicated what just happened over the tactical radio net and received clearance from the JTAC to exit the area before the day got even more exciting. The Russian jet thankfully didn't engage the flight of F-18s as they left the combat zone. The 4 US pilots refueled from a nearby KC-10 extender before splitting into two.
I'm confused a lot because I don't know about this war and conflict, Syrian war. So Syria is with ISIS, is that what the case is? Because yeah, I'm guessing that's the case, right? And Russia is with Syria and against America, is that it? Because if US shoots down Syrian bomber, then Russia would attack US, so implying that Russia is with Syria and ISIS. Is that what's happening here? This is the war that I need to watch some good history video on this one, because I don't know shit about this.
Two groups. Tremel and Kruger in their F-18Es flew back to their aircraft carrier via a southern route through Iraq, while the 2 F-18Cs diverted to provide air support for coalition forces in Iraq. The Super Hornets landed on the US aircraft carrier without further incident and debriefed with their commander. Lieutenant Commander Tremel had just scored the first US air-to-air kill of a manned aircraft since an American F-15 shot down 2 Serbian MiG-29s in 1999. But in spite of the historic event, the rest of Tremel's night was pretty anticlimactic, which was just fine by him after the earlier adrenaline rush. Meanwhile, the situation in Syria was already intensifying after the bombing and shootdown. SDF and Syrian government forces engaged each other in open combat, and SDF forces ultimately had to retreat from Jadin. The pilot of the Su-22, Syrian Captain Al-Fad, was safe and sound after his ejection parachute landed near southern Raqqa, where he was recovered by Syrian government forces the next day. The Syrian and Russian governments were furious, issuing strong statements that denied the US account and asserted that the bomber had been on a mission against ISIS. Russia temporarily closed their end of deconfliction hotline established between the Russian Ministry of Defense and coalition forces. Additionally, Russia threatened they would treat any coalition aircraft west of the Euphrates River as hostile. But it was hard to argue against the multiple eyewitnesses and the data from multiple sources presented by US-led coalition verifying the Su-22 attack against SDF troops and not ISIS. Without clear evidence of their own to present, Syrian and Russian forces didn't escalate their protests and threats against the US any further, which is something we can all be thankful for. The Syrian civil war was already messy enough as it was, and no one wanted the US and Russia getting into a shooting match over Syria that triggered World War III. The events of that day were part of—
Yeah, I mean, look, if they clearly attacked US forces like that, and they're like, Russia and everybody just like threatening, we're gonna do this, why not US is like, okay, you know what, here's another aircraft carrier, and here's another or jets like F-22 and shit, like, okay, let's see how you're gonna shoot us down, let's see it. Rather than flexing at this point. Because I'm pretty sure US has that kind of money, right? Sometimes I think like US always gets bogged down with bureaucracy and things, and that's where they get lagged down. Because with all the money spent, they always hear about like, if you want to do war, we need even more money. Just like, okay, yeah. I don't know. This is like very recent. I don't know why they're... Okay, I'm still like sounding like new. Somebody clear shit in comment, I guess. Why they're using F-18 enough F-22s? They definitely have F-22s, right? Or they're afraid that if somebody does shoot it down, they're going to have technology of F-22 now. Is that it?
The broader context of the Syrian civil war and international campaign against the brutal ISIS terrorist group. Since 2011, Syria has been embroiled in a war between Bashar al-Assad's government forces backed by Russia and Iran, and a variety of rebel groups including Kurdish militia, military defectors, Arab Spring revolutionaries, and a hodgepodge of other ethnic and religious groups. These different rebel groups fought on their own or in larger coalitions like the Free Syrian Army and the Syrian Democratic Forces, but often fought against each other too. Around the same time period, the infamous extremist terror group ISIS reared its ugly head, taking advantage of the war-torn land to carve out huge sections of regions for its own self-declared Islamic state, its own caliphate, prompting a massive response from Arab nations, NATO, Iran, and Russia. To make things even more confusing, foreign countries like Iran and the United States backed different factions of the Syrian civil war, both for their own goals and as an extension of the fight against ISIS. By 2017, Syria was a swirling mess of different fighting forces with shifting priorities and allegiances. But there's still one nagging question that's keeping.
When are these people gonna understand that they are doing all this like guerrilla warfare and all this like we are this militia, we're that militia? In the end of the day, you're fucking up your home world. Like regardless of where you stand, whatever you're gonna left with is gonna be much less than you started with. And in the day and age of everybody's economy and everybody's like rising up, you're gonna be even more behind. Like look at Middle East right now; it's like completely fucked up, right? And it's like every new organization or something pops up, trying to take over place, and it's just like constant war, constant buildings. Every time I see photos, like concrete destroyed left and right, like damn man, so fucked up.
Me up at night. Why did the AIM-9X fail to hit its target? The missile is a sophisticated current generation munition, but it had trouble shooting down an antiquated Su-22. We may have some clues though, thanks to test results on an earlier version of the Sidewinder. In 1987, the US got a hold of a flare dispenser from a Su-25 Frogfoot that had been shot down in Afghanistan. The Soviet dispenser was sent to the 4477th Test and Evaluation Squadron located in Nevada, a secretive unit that specialized in analyzing enemy aircraft and equipment. The 4477th was eager to try out the AIM-9P against actual Soviet flares, and they had discovered something interesting in the process. The AIM-9P was very good at screening out and rejecting NATO flares, but loved tracking Soviet flares instead. As it turned out, the Soviet flares were incredibly inconsistent in their construction and burn characteristics, making it hard for the AIM-9P to identify them.
Yeah, that's because of reason. Okay, that could be two reasons. Either like, okay, they don't have consistency in building, or they could have consistency, but they're deliberately not doing it for this particular reason. If all your flares are different, it's going to be harder for missiles to track any of them, right? And basically detect that. So that's like, I guess this is like, there's a reason behind it. Right? People, people want to like, crap down on any Russian and Soviet equipment all they want, right? But there are points when it comes to it. Like you have to praise something, like some approaches of the past. And the level of GDP they had for the past century or something, whatever they did is like still like commendable, right? So I'm pretty sure this flare thing is like deliberate. It's all different.
As a countermeasure and not as hot jet engines. While NATO flares always look exactly the same, it was a classic case of tuning weapons around your own equipment and not anticipating the different standards of Soviet equipment. But it seems likely a similar phenomena was at work in the 2017 incident. The exact reason is still a mystery, at least in open source intelligence world. There are still many other possibilities: faulty missile, bad roll of the dice. It's still unknown why the Syrian Air Force thought it would be a good idea to attack US forces under US protection while in full view of American combat aircraft. Maybe they were testing American resolve, or maybe they forgot that the US resolve is inherent. Maybe there was a miscommunication and the Su-22 pilot really thought he was attacking the ISIS forces despite American warnings. As the Syrian civil war continues, even now in 2023, we may never know the
BS. I don't think he knew that. I don't think he made a mistake. Because when an F-18 comes to your ass and throws flares like that, you try to communicate back, or you try to show some signs of like acknowledgement or backing down. He knew what he was doing. He knew why F-18 was just on his ass, right? So yeah.
Reasons behind Syria and Russia's actions on that day. But thanks to this incident on June 18th, 2017, we know that no matter how advanced an aircraft or weapon system is, it's just as important to have a cool, calm, and well-trained pilot at the controls. And if you want to learn more about close air support,
the pilot is always most important, right? If you're like one of the best pilot, like he can't even use like weaker plane and can shoot something down, right? Yeah, that incident in India, Pakistan with the F-16 and what was it, like MiG-29 or something? I don't even know what that was. Clearly old plane, but still shot down F-16. Obviously, it went down as well because some, anti-air attacks or something. But still, shooting F-16 is not a joke. But yeah, so, it all boils down to pilot, like how good a pilot is. Yeah, people, that was how this American F-18 shot down a Syrian SU-22. It was an incident, basically, of... I don't know anything about Syrian war, right? Basically, like, And most of the modern Middle Eastern war is just like I have no knowledge of. I need to, what I think the problem with that is like YouTube doesn't treat well those kind of videos. So I don't think there are that many videos like that on YouTube. That's the problem. Look at Armchair Historian. He's like constantly screwed. He definitely does like a lot of modern things, but he gets screwed because of it. So it's really hard to find good videos about it. But yeah, so this is just insane. The whole thing about Syrian war is insane. It's really hard to understand like where is things going, how many groups are rising up, right? And everybody's trying to power grab their own thing. The sight of tanks walking by in street, it just always feels so surreal to me. I can't even imagine that happening in my own city. Imagine, I'm just trying to imagine what if tanks were rolling by these fucking roads? How insane would that be? Yeah, that's so fucked up, man. Conflicts are just like, you think like the more and more 21st century is like going better. You just have this like a feeling, oh look at the conflicts are going down because you're not watching news. Oh look, conflicts are going down. But, modern world is getting better. Nope. Middle Eastern wars are getting even bigger and bigger. More things are increasing. Look at that. There's also 2 wars now apparently. Yeah. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, if you want to see other reaction that I did like this from this channel or other, like check out the link in the description and end cards right now. I'm on Instagram now if you want to follow me. I think there's only social media personally that I use. I have Twitter, but I just post like links from the my channel videos. But yeah, Instagram is the only one. So if you want to follow me, definitely find the link in the description, I guess. And yeah, I'll see you next time.